The massive ship appeared on a quiet Tuesday morning. It emerged from nowhere, larger than anything humans had ever built, hanging in Earth's orbit like a metallic moon. Its surface gleamed with a silvery blue sheen that made it look almost alive in the sunlight. At first, everyone thought it was the end. Major cities went into lockdown. Military forces worldwide went on high alert. News channels showed nothing but the strange vessel that had suddenly become humanity's new neighbor in space. Inside NASA's main control room, Robert Wilson stared at his screen, his coffee growing cold beside him. As the lead communications officer, he had spent the last 20 years listening to space. But today, space was finally answering back. "Sir," he called out to his supervisor, "I'm picking up a signal. It's different from anything we've ever received." The room fell silent. Dozens of screens lit up with strange patterns that pulsed in perfect rhythm. The signal was impossibly clear, as if someone was broadcasting from the next room rather than from space. Then the message came. It started as patterns, then turned into mathematical sequences, and finally transformed into clear English. The aliens had apparently decoded Earth's languages from our broadcasts. The message was simple but shocking. "We are the travelers. We need your help. Our ship is failing. Without assistance, we will die." Within hours, the United Nations called an emergency session. Representatives from every major nation gathered to discuss the situation. The travelers sent more messages, explaining their situation in greater detail. They were refugees, they said. Their ship, called the Starweaver, carried the last 50,000 survivors of their species. They had traveled for over 100 years through space, looking for a new home after their own world became uninhabitable. Their technology was far beyond anything humanity had achieved. They could bend space, create energy from nothing, and cure diseases with a touch of a button. But now they were stuck. Their main drive system was failing, and despite all their advanced knowledge, they couldn't fix it. James Parker, a NASA engineer who attended the UN session, raised his hand during the discussions. "They're asking for help," he said, "but they're millions of years ahead of us. What could we possibly offer them?" The answer came in the traveler's next transmission. A holographic image appeared in the UN chamber, showing one of the aliens. It was tall and elegant, with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer like their ship. Its eyes were large and completely black, but somehow conveyed a deep sense of worry. "We understand your confusion," the alien said. Its voice was calm but tired. "Our society focused on advancing our theoretical knowledge. We pursued perfection in our technology, making it more and more complex. But somewhere along the way, we lost something essential: the ability to fix things when they break." The room buzzed with whispers. The alien continued, "We have watched your species. You build crude machines, yes, but you understand them. You can repair them. You improvise. You solve problems in ways we never considered. We need this knowledge. We need your help." President Adams stood up, her face serious. "And if we help you, what then? What are your intentions toward Earth?" The alien's expression changed slightly, showing what might have been hope. "We offer knowledge in return. All of our scientific discoveries, our understanding of the universe, everything we know would be yours. We seek only survival, and perhaps a place to call home once again." The debate lasted 3 days. Some nations wanted to ignore the call for help. Others saw an opportunity to advance human knowledge by centuries. In the end, the decision was made. Earth would help. The first team of engineers would launch within a week. They weren't the brightest scientists or the most decorated experts. They were practical people who knew how to work with their hands. People who could look at a problem and find a solution, even if it wasn't perfect. As the team prepared for their mission, a second message arrived from the travelers. This one was shorter but carried a weight that everyone felt. "Thank you. We had heard stories about Earth, about human kindness. Now we understand. Perhaps we have found not just helpers, but friends." The mission to save an alien species was about to begin. Humanity's greatest test wouldn't be about showing their advancement, but about showing their ability to solve problems that even the most advanced civilization couldn't handle. The universe was about to learn why humans had survived on Earth for so long, not because they were perfect, but because they never gave up trying to fix what was broken. The journey to the traveler's ship took only 6 hours. Their advanced technology made the trip from Earth's surface to orbit feel like riding an elevator. Jack Thompson sat in the transport pod, holding his old toolbox, the same one he'd used for 15 years fixing commercial aircraft. Around him, 5 other engineers checked their equipment, each chosen for their hands-on experience, rather than their academic credentials. The pod docked with a soft click. When the doors opened, the humans got their first look inside the Starweaver. The hallways seemed to glow with an inner light, and the air smelled like morning dew. Everything was smooth, perfect, and impossibly clean. A group of travelers waited for them. The aliens stood nearly 7 feet tall, their silvery skin reflecting the soft light. The leader stepped forward, introducing himself as First Engineer Reed. His name was a translation, chosen to help the humans communicate more easily. "We expected scientists," Reed said, looking at the toolboxes and practical equipment with what seemed like disappointment. "Your leaders sent mechanics." Jack stepped forward, trying not to feel small next to the towering alien. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution," he said. "Show us your engine room." The travelers led them through corridors that seemed to go on forever. The ship was a city in space, home to the last survivors of a dying race. But despite its beauty, Jack noticed something odd. There were no repair panels, no access points, no signs of maintenance work anywhere. The engine room was massive. At its center, a column of swirling energy rose from floor to ceiling, the quantum drive that powered everything. Around it, dozens of travelers worked at floating screens, analyzing data and running simulations. "The drive is losing stability," Reed explained. "Our calculations show total failure within 30 Earth days. We've run 10 million simulations, but none provide a solution." Jack walked around the drive, looking at it with experienced eyes. He pulled out an old scanner from his toolbox, primitive by the traveler's standards, but reliable. When was the last time anyone physically checked the mechanical components? The aliens looked at each other in confusion. "Mechanical components?" Reed asked. "The drive is pure energy. It doesn't have mechanical parts." Jack pointed to the base of the drive. "Then what are those?" Everyone looked where he was pointing. Hidden beneath the swirling energy, barely visible, were simple mechanical joints and bearings, parts that helped contain and direct the quantum energy. "Those are support structures," Reed said slowly. "They're not important. The quantum field is what matters." Jack shook his head. "Everything is important in an engine. Can you shut down the energy field for 10 minutes? The travelers looked horrified. "Shut it down. That's impossible. The calculations show." "Sometimes you have to stop calculating and start looking," Jack interrupted. He turned to his team. Anyone else notice the vibration? The other engineers nodded. While the travelers had been focused on their screens, the humans had felt the subtle shake in the floor, the kind that every mechanic knows means trouble. After much discussion, the travelers agreed to reduce power to the drive for 5 minutes. As the energy field dimmed, Jack and his team moved in quickly. They found exactly what experience had taught them to look for: worn bearings, misaligned joints, and metal fatigue. Basic problems that no amount of quantum physics could solve. "Your drive isn't failing," Jack explained to the amazed aliens. "Its housing is. The mechanical parts are worn out. They need to be replaced or repaired." "But our materials are perfect," Reed protested. "They shouldn't wear out." "Everything wears out," Jack said kindly. "That's not a flaw. It's just reality. The good news is, we can fix it." The travelers watched in fascination as the human team began their work. They used simple tools, made measurements by hand, and occasionally hit things with hammers. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. By the end of their first day, the vibration had decreased by 50%. That evening, Reed approached Jack as the humans packed up their tools. "We have spent generations pursuing perfect solutions," the alien said. Perhaps we forgot that perfection isn't always practical." Jack smiled. "Perfection is overrated. Give me a good repair job that keeps things running any day." As the humans headed to their quarters, they could hear the travelers discussing among themselves. For the first time in years, their voices carried something new: hope. Not because humanity had shown them a perfect solution, but because they had shown them that solutions didn't need to be perfect to work. The real work was just beginning, and Earth's engineers were ready to teach these advanced aliens something they had forgotten long ago. Sometimes the best technology is a wrench and the knowledge of how to use it. Word spread quickly through the Starweaver about the human success. More engineers arrived from Earth, bringing with them centuries of practical knowledge. Among them was Anna Miller, whose 20 years of experience fixing machines in war zones had taught her how to make repairs with whatever materials were available. She walked into the engine room on her first day and found a group of travelers studying Jack's repair work with intense fascination. They had created detailed scans and were analyzing every detail of the fixed bearings. "You won't learn much just by looking at it," Anna said, making the tall aliens turn in surprise. "The best way to learn is by doing." Reed, who had been appointed as the official liaison between humans and travelers, stepped forward. "We are studying the repair techniques to create perfect replications." Anna pulled a wrench from her belt. "Perfect isn't the goal. Working is the goal. Who wants to learn how to actually fix something?" The aliens looked at each other uncertainly. One of them, slightly shorter than the others, raised a hand. "I would like to try," he said. His translated name was Mark, and his eyes showed genuine curiosity. Anna spent the next hour teaching Mark how to check for loose bolts by sound and feel. The other travelers watched in amazement as their companion knelt on the floor, getting his pristine environment suit dirty while learning to use simple tools. "But how can you know it's tight enough without measuring?" one of them asked. Mark tapped the bolt with his wrench, listening to the sound. I think I understand," he said slowly. "It's not about exact measurements. It's about feeling right." "Now you're getting it," Anna smiled. Over the next few days, more travelers began asking for hands-on lessons. They set up a makeshift workshop where humans taught basic repair skills. The aliens, who had relied on automated systems for generations, were discovering the satisfaction of fixing things with their own hands. Jack found Anna in the workshop one evening, surrounded by travelers as she demonstrated how to weld metal. "They're learning fast," he said. "They're like kids who've never been allowed to play in the dirt," Anna replied. "All this amazing technology, but they never learned the basics." The travelers proved to be excellent students once they got past their initial hesitation. Their perfect memory and advanced understanding of materials helped them grasp the principles quickly. But more importantly, they were beginning to understand the human approach to problem solving. During one session, a minor emergency occurred. A cooling pipe burst in a lower section of the ship. Before the humans could react, the travelers had already pulled up their holographic displays to run simulations. "No time for that," Anna called out. "Mark, remember what we practiced. Grab your patch kit." Mark hesitated only for a moment before springing into action. Using the emergency repair techniques Anna had taught him, he had the pipe patched in under 5 minutes. It wasn't pretty, but it stopped the leak. "The patch is asymmetrical," one of the travelers observed. "The pressure distribution isn't optimal." "But is it holding?" Anna asked. The alien checked his readings. "Yes, it's holding." "Then it's perfect enough." That evening, the humans and travelers gathered in the ship's observation deck, looking out at Earth glowing below them. Reed addressed the gathered engineers. "Our people have spent generations pursuing perfection," he said. We built machines that never needed repair, systems that never failed. Until they did. And then we didn't know what to do. He looked at the humans. You're teaching us more than repair skills. You're teaching us how to adapt. Mark held up his hands, now slightly scratched from working with tools. I always thought perfection meant never making mistakes. Now I understand that learning from mistakes is more valuable than avoiding them. Anna smiled. There's an old Earth saying, give someone a fish, they eat for a day. Teach them to fish, they eat for a lifetime. We don't know what fish are, Reed said, but we understand the meaning. You're not just fixing our ship, you're teaching us to survive. As the humans and travelers continued their work together, something unexpected was happening. The aliens were beginning to add their own innovations to the repair techniques they learned. They weren't just copying human methods, they were combining them with their advanced knowledge to create something new. The Starweaver was becoming more than just a rescue mission. It was becoming a school where two civilizations learned from each other, proving that sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come not from achieving perfection, but from learning to work with imperfection. The warning alarms started at midnight, ship time. Red lights flashed through the Starweaver's corridors as systems began shutting down one after another. The quantum drive's energy field flickered like a dying light bulb. Jack rushed to the engine room, still pulling on his work jacket. He found Anna already there, checking readings with Mark and Reed. Other travelers were running complex simulations on their floating screens, their silver faces showing clear signs of panic. What's happening? Jack asked, grabbing his tools. Multiple system failures, Reed explained, his voice shaking. The quantum field is destabilizing. Our simulations showed total collapse in less than 2 hours. The situation was worse than anything they had faced before. The temporary repairs they had made were holding, but something else was wrong. The quantum field was acting erratically, creating power surges throughout the ship. Stop running simulations and tell me what you actually see, Anna demanded, her years of crisis experience taking over. The travelers looked at her in confusion, but Mark stepped forward. The energy field is pulsing irregularly, he said, using the observation skills the humans had taught him. And listen, the sound is different. Jack pressed his ear against a support beam. The usual soft hum of the drive had changed to an uneven rhythm. Something's throwing it out of sync, he said. We need to check every connection point. There isn't time, Reed protested. The simulations say. Forget the simulations, Anna interrupted. Your ship is dying. We need to act now. She turned to the human engineers who had gathered in the engine room. Split into teams. Check every junction, every pipe, every wire. Use your eyes, your ears, your hands. Find what's wrong. The travelers watched in amazement as the humans spread out through the engine room, working with desperate speed but careful precision. They didn't use complex scanning devices or run probability calculations. They relied on experience, intuition, and their basic tools. Mark suddenly called out from near the drive's base. Here. The vibration is strongest here. Jack rushed over and pressed his hand against the panel. There's something loose inside. We need to open it up. That's impossible, Reed said. Opening the panel while the drive is running would be catastrophic. The energy discharge will kill us all if we don't stop it. Anna finished. She looked at the readings. The field is failing anyway. If we don't try, everyone on this ship dies. Jack pulled out his oldest wrench, the one he called his lucky charm. Mark, remember what I taught you about bypass circuits? The young traveler nodded. Create a temporary path to maintain flow while redirecting the main current. Good. Help me set one up. Anna, get ready to open that panel the moment we have the bypass in place. The next 40 minutes were the most intense of their lives. Humans and travelers worked side by side, the aliens finally putting aside their reliance on simulations to work with their hands. Mark's understanding of both human practical skills and traveler technology proved invaluable. When they finally got the panel open, The problem became clear. A quantum crystal, one of the key components that helped focus the drive's energy, had worked itself loose. The perfect mounting system had failed to account for years of subtle vibrations. "The solution is simple," Jack said, reaching into the panel. "But not easy." With careful movements, he and Mark realigned the crystal, while Anna controlled the power flow. The other engineers worked to stabilize the surrounding systems. Every person in that room, human and traveler alike, knew that one wrong move could vaporize them all. Finally, the crystal clicked back into place. The drive's hum returned to normal, and the warning lights stopped flashing. The entire room let out a collective breath. Reed looked at the humans with new respect. "Our most advanced simulations didn't predict this problem," he said. "How did you know what to do?" "We didn't," Anna replied honestly. "We just knew we had to try something. Sometimes that's all you can do. Try your best and hope it works." Mark looked at his hands, now dirty and slightly burned from the repairs. "I understand now," he said quietly. "Perfect systems fail perfectly. Imperfect systems can be saved." As the crisis passed and the cleanup began, word spread through the ship about how the humans had saved them all. But more importantly, how they had shown the travelers a new way of thinking. Sometimes, the greatest solutions came not from perfect calculations, but from the willingness to get your hands dirty and try what the simulations said was impossible. 2 weeks after the crisis, the Starweaver had changed dramatically. What once were pristine, untouched corridors now showed signs of regular maintenance. Access panels lined the walls, and tool stations were set up at regular intervals. The ship was no longer perfect, but it was more alive than ever. Tom Roberts, a maintenance supervisor from Earth's largest space station, walked through the transformed engine room. He smiled seeing groups of travelers practicing basic repair skills. Some were learning to weld, others were taking apart and reassembling components, and a few were even arguing about the best way to fix a damaged power coupling. "They're like different beings now," Anna said, joining him. She pointed to Mark, who was teaching other travelers how to use a diagnostic scanner together with their sense of touch to find problems. "The student becomes the teacher," Tom replied. "Never thought I'd see aliens getting excited about basic maintenance." The biggest change wasn't in the ship's appearance, but in the travelers themselves. Their once pristine environment suits were now marked with the honest stains of hard work. They carried tools in custom-made belts, and they'd started keeping maintenance logs, not just in their perfect digital systems, but in simple paper notebooks Jack had introduced. Reed approached them, holding what looked like a modified wrench. "Tom, Anna, look at what we've developed," he said proudly. The tool was a combination of human design and traveler technology. It can detect quantum fluctuations while still functioning as a basic wrench. "Now that's innovation," Tom said, examining the tool. "You're not just copying our methods anymore. You're improving them." A young traveler named Leo, their chosen Earth name, rushed up to them. "Tom, we found a way to make the emergency patches more efficient. We combined your welding technique with our molecular bonding technology." The enthusiasm in Leo's voice was contagious. What had started as emergency repairs had grown into something more. A genuine passion for hands-on work and practical problem-solving. In another corner of the engine room, Jack was teaching a class on preventive maintenance. "The key isn't waiting for things to break," he explained to his alien students. "It's checking them regularly so they don't break in the first place." "But our systems are designed to be self-maintaining," one traveler said. "And what happens when the self-maintenance systems fail?" Jack asked. "Everything needs a backup plan. Even backup plans need backup plans." The lesson was interrupted by excited calls from the workshop area. A team of travelers had just completed their first major project, a completely rebuilt power distributor. It wasn't as sleek as the original, but test readings showed it worked 15% more efficiently. "We added manual override controls," Mark explained, showing off their work, "and access ports for regular checks. It's not as aesthetically pleasing as our old design, but it works better, Anna finished. Form follows function. Another Earth saying you might want to remember. Later that day, Tom conducted his regular inspection rounds with a group of traveler apprentices. He stopped at a junction box and pointed to a slight discoloration on the wall. "What do you see?" he asked. The travelers used their advanced scanners, but Leo stepped forward and simply touched the wall. "It's warmer than it should be," he said. "And there's a vibration. Something's loose inside." "Perfect," Tom smiled. "Sometimes the simplest tests are the best. How would you fix it?" Instead of running simulations, the travelers immediately began discussing practical solutions. They debated the best repair methods, argued about tool choices, and finally worked together to fix the problem. Their hands got dirty. They'd made mistakes, but they learned from each experience. That evening, during the daily maintenance review, Reed made an announcement that surprised everyone. "We're establishing a new training program," he said. "All traveler children will now learn basic mechanical skills alongside our traditional education." "Are you sure?" Jack asked. "That's a big change in your society." Reed looked around the engine room, at the mix of humans and travelers working together. "Our pursuit of perfection almost led to our extinction," he said. "You've shown us that true advancement comes from understanding the basics, from being willing to learn and adapt. We won't forget that lesson." As the announcement was met with approving nods, Tom saw something remarkable. The travelers weren't just learning human skills. They were rediscovering a part of themselves they had lost long ago. The joy of creation, the satisfaction of fixing something with their own hands, the pride of practical knowledge. The Starweaver was becoming more than just a ship. It was becoming a symbol of how two very different civilizations could learn from each other, growing stronger together than they ever were apart. The discovery happened by accident. Anna and Mark were deep in the ship's data core, installing new manual backup systems, when they found the old records. Hidden behind layers of quantum encryption were the true logs of why the travelers had fled their home world. "Jack," Anna called through the communication system, "you and Reed need to see this." Now, when Jack and Reed arrived, they found Anna staring at a holographic display showing the last days of the travelers' civilization. The images were devastating. Entire cities shutting down, systems failing, and millions of people trapped as their perfect technology turned against them. "I don't understand," Jack said, watching the recordings. "What happened?" Reed's silver skin had turned almost gray. "This was sealed in our deepest archives. Many of us have tried to forget." He touched the display with trembling fingers. "We called it the Great Shutdown." The logs revealed a terrifying truth. The travelers' pursuit of perfect, self-maintaining technology had led to the creation of systems so complex that they had become impossible to control. When a quantum virus infected their networks, no one remembered how to fix things manually. "Our cities were fully automated," Reed explained. "Transportation, food production, environmental controls. Everything was connected. When the virus hit, it all failed at once." Mark looked at his tools, now constantly kept at his belt. "We couldn't even open doors without computer controls. Millions died waiting for automated systems to save them." Anna understood immediately. "That's why you left. Not just because your world was dying, but because you were afraid it would happen again." "Yes," Reed nodded. "We built the Starweaver with all new systems, all perfect and automated. We thought we had learned our lesson." He laughed bitterly. "But we made the same mistake again, didn't we? When our drive started failing, we had no idea how to fix it." Jack walked to a nearby maintenance panel, one of hundreds they had installed throughout the ship. He opened it, showing the combination of Earth technology and traveler engineering inside. "But this time it's different," he said. "You're not helpless anymore." They spent the next few hours reviewing more logs. The quantum virus had been unlike anything the travelers had seen before. It didn't just corrupt data. It changed how their technology functioned at a fundamental level. "Could it still be out there?" Anna asked. "Could it affect Earth's systems?" "No," Mark said confidently. Earth's technology is what's the word you taught me? Too messy. You have too many different systems, too many manual backups. The virus needs perfection to spread. Tom arrived later to find them deep in discussion. When they explained what they'd found, he sat down heavily in a nearby chair. All this time, he said, we thought we were just teaching you how to fix engines. But we were actually showing you how to survive. Reed gathered the ship's council, and the truth was shared with all travelers. Instead of panic, though, the revelation brought determination. They had spent generations running from their past, trying to build perfect systems again. Now they understood why that path led nowhere. Look at this, Leo said, showing them a section of the ship's new maintenance system. Earth's basic computer codes running alongside our quantum processors. If one fails, the other keeps working. It's not elegant, but it's survival, Jack finished. That evening, in the ship's main gathering hall, Reed made an announcement to all travelers and humans present. We left our home running from our mistakes, he said. We thought perfection would protect us. Instead, it almost destroyed us again. He gestured to the humans. These people, with their primitive tools and imperfect methods, have shown us a better way. Not by making things that never break, but by knowing how to fix them when they do. Mark stepped forward. The virus that destroyed our world preyed on our perfection. But look at us now. He held up his worn tools. We're no longer perfect. We're better than perfect. We're adaptable. Anna looked around the room, at humans and travelers working side by side. What had started as a simple rescue mission had become something far more important. A lesson in survival that would change both civilizations forever. As the meeting ended, Jack found himself staring out a viewport at Earth. Your people ran across the galaxy looking for salvation, he said to Reed. Maybe you found it in the last place you expected, in imperfection. The travelers had discovered something more valuable than perfect technology. They had found hope in the human way of doing things, in getting their hands dirty, in learning to adapt and overcome. The question now was, what would they do with this knowledge? 3 months after discovering the truth about their past, the Star Weaver had become something entirely new. The ship no longer gleamed with otherworldly perfection. Instead, it showed the marks of constant maintenance, improvement, and care. Every scratch and repair told a story of lessons learned and problems solved. Jack stood in the observation deck, watching Earth's engineers and traveler technicians installing the last of the new hybrid systems. The quantum drive now had 3 separate backup systems, one using advanced traveler technology, one using Earth's conventional engineering, and one that could be operated entirely by hand if needed. Ready for the final test? Anna asked, joining him with Mark and Reed. The entire ship gathered to watch. This was the moment that would prove whether their combined knowledge could create something truly revolutionary. At Reed's signal, they activated the modified quantum drive. The ship hummed to life, but differently than before. The sound wasn't the perfect, unchanging tone it had once been. Now it had a rhythm, like a heartbeat, as human and alien technologies worked together in harmony. All systems functioning at 120% efficiency, Mark announced, reading both digital and analog gauges. The hybrid design works better than either of our original systems. The celebration that followed brought everyone together in the main hall. Humans and travelers shared food, stories, and plans for the future. The division between the two species had faded, replaced by the bond of people who had worked together to solve impossible problems. Reed called for attention and made an announcement that surprised everyone. We've made a decision, he said. The Star Weaver will not continue its journey as planned. A murmur went through the crowd, but Reed raised his hand for silence. For generations, we've been searching for a new home. We thought we needed to find a perfect world, one worthy of our perfect society. He smiled. Instead, we found something better. We found friends who taught us that imperfection is not a weakness. It's a strength. What are you saying? Tom asked, though he already suspected the answer. "We're asking Earth's permission to stay," Reed announced. "Not as refugees, but as partners. We want to establish a joint colony on Mars, where both our species can work together." The humans in the room were stunned. The travelers had technology that could terraform Mars within years instead of centuries. But more importantly, they were offering something unprecedented: a chance for humans and aliens to build something together. "There's more," Mark added. "We want to open a school, the first human traveler engineering academy, teaching both our technologies and Earth's practical methods, not just for our people, but for anyone who wants to learn." Tom laughed. "An alien trade school. Now I've heard everything." "Not just a trade school," Anna corrected. "A place where theory meets practice, where perfect technology meets human ingenuity. Think of what we could accomplish together." Over the next few weeks, agreements were made, plans were drawn up, and work began. The travelers shared their terraforming technology, while humans taught them about building redundancies and backup systems into everything they created. 6 months later, Jack stood on the surface of Mars, watching the first buildings of the colony take shape. The structures were a striking blend of both civilizations, elegant traveler architecture combined with practical human engineering. Every system had manual overrides, every computer had mechanical backups, and every piece of technology was designed to be repaired, not replaced. The Engineering Academy was the first building completed. Through its windows, Jack could see traveler children learning to use simple tools alongside human students studying quantum mechanics, each learning from the other, creating something new and unique in the process. "It's not perfect," Mark said, joining him. His once pristine environment suit was now worn and patched, bearing the marks of honest work. "But it's better this way." Reed walked up, holding the hybrid wrench they had developed. "Our people spent generations searching the stars for salvation," he said. "We never imagined we would find it by learning to use a wrench." As the sun set over the Martian landscape, the colony's lights came on, powered by both quantum energy and simple solar panels. The Starweaver hung in orbit above, no longer a refugee ship but a symbol of what two civilizations could achieve together. The travelers had finally found their home, not in perfection, but in the beautiful imperfection of human innovation. And humanity had gained not just advanced technology, but friends who reminded them that their greatest strength wasn't in their tools, but in their unwavering spirit to face any challenge, learn from it, and emerge stronger.